The first Far Cry, a game that spawned many titles in its franchise, with its fair share of ups and downs. The initial installment, developed by Crytek rather than Ubisoft, like the other games in the series, was a graphical powerhouse. Most remember it as that beautiful game from 2004, but let's see how it holds up today, not just graphically. Developed by Crytek in their new flashy CryEngine, Far Cry shares more similarities with Crysis 1 than it does with any other Far Cry game. As a sort of predecessor to Crysis, you can immediately appreciate the amazing graphical fidelity that their developers were so proud of back then. And it's actually reflected in the way the first Far Cry plays too. It is not an open world game like the later titles. Instead, it's a linear shooter that reminded me more of Fear than Far Cry 3, for example. The only real connection to the other Far Cry games is the setting. The beautiful, desolate island you find yourself stranded on. I'm a sucker for tropical paradises and islands in video games. Give me an island over a desert or a city any day. And it really does look good. Even in 2025, the game holds up surprisingly well. The textures are the only major downside, but some items and objects still look decent. However, the water, vegetation and lighting still look good for their time. The game also features dynamic shadows, which I love. Both the wider, more open areas, like beaches and jungles, look great. It's clear they chose this setting to show off their flashy CryEngine, and I'm glad they did. The more linear, enclosed levels, such as labs, underground facilities and bunkers, also hold up visually. This is where the dynamic shadow casting shines. Of course, it doesn't look as good as something modern, but what really caught my eye was the art direction. This scene right here on the beach is the most Frutiger Aero moment I've seen in a video game. The clear blue ocean, the bright sky, the lush green vegetation, and the clean sand all come together to form an image that practically screams Windows XP wallpaper. And that's what I love most about it. I don't see this mentioned often, but Far Cry 1 has impressive physics. Even by today's standards, the game features some destructible environments, like breakable towers and terrain that deforms from explosions. And whoever designed the off-road buggy physics, hats off to them. All the Far Cry games have surprisingly solid driving mechanics, despite vehicles never being the main focus of the series. Enemies react realistically to bullet shots. They don't just stand there soaking up damage like bullet sponges. When hit, they flinch, stumble or react to the impact. And when you finally take down a human enemy, they ragdoll to the floor. A sight, in a morbid way, looks oddly satisfying. Speaking of enemies, the AI in this game outshines the AI of every newer Far Cry title. If you compare it to the latest Far Cry 6, the AI in that game feels like a joke, even on harder difficulties. If you want a real challenge, try playing Far Cry 1 on the higher difficulties. The AI is unpredictable and aggressive. Enemies flank, use cover intelligently, and almost seem to work together. They respond to sound and sight in ways that make you feel like you're being hunted, not just fighting the brainless zombies. That being said, the game is hard. Harder than any other Far Cry and most modern games. Even on medium difficulty, you'll often find yourself reloading save files multiple times after constant deaths. Enemies shoot at you from insane distances and spot you within seconds. It actually reminded me of how Crysis 1 played, which makes sense, since Far Cry 1 is basically Crysis' older sibling. I genuinely hope newer games incorporate this kind of AI or something similar. It has the power to turn an average game into an enjoyable one, and a good game into something unforgettable. I won't dive too deep into Far Cry 1's story because this is where it falls flat.
Doyle, my armor's turning green!
Sounds like you caught.
It's a very straightforward narrative that primarily exists to push the gameplay forward. While the story severely lacks, the overall experience remains engaging, thanks to its challenging gameplay and beautiful environments. Can't have everything, I suppose. Another aspect that distinguishes the first installment from the mainland games in the series is the addition of the unique enemy type. The monsters known as Trigens. These can catch new players off guard, especially if they're expecting to only fight human enemies. 1 minute you're exchanging gunfire with mercenaries, and the next you're being ambushed by hulking, genetically modified creatures slipping out of the jungle. It's jarring in a good way. In my opinion, the Trigens make the first game even more unique. It deviates from the rest of the series. There are only a few types of Trigens, but each is distinct with its own tactics and ways of killing you. These giant mutants, for example, can go straight to hell with their arm-mounted rocket launchers in the later levels. Or how about a freaking invisible Trigen lurking in the catacomb, just waiting to ambush and scare the living crap out of you? Yeah, they're almost completely invisible. Overall, playing the game again 2 decades later, I can say it has held up decently over the time with its gameplay mechanics and visuals. It's still the underdog of the series, but definitely worth revisiting if you're looking for a challenge or a trip down memory lane. If you played the game back in the early 2000s, I bet the first level is etched into your memory because of how memorable and beautiful it is. This scene is what pulled me back after all these years to try it out again and finish it. After completing it, my nostalgia was satisfied and I had great fun surviving, even as the unmemorable character you play as. More content coming soon.